How often do you watch a movie?
uh, it changes now. The pandemic really did change things for me. I used to be the movie guy. Movies only. TV show? What's that? Never going to watch it. Pandemic completely changed that. I started seeing the movies that were coming out during the pandemic. And I don't know if it's something with the studios that they were trying to release films that I would label as lesser than. They just didn't hit the way that a lot of movies that I've seen in years prior would. So I was watching these movies at home and I was just kind of like, that was fine. That was fine. That was okay. Oh, this one was a little bit better than that one. And I just kept seeing on social media all this talk about like TV shows. And then I started going into it and I started watching TV shows. And one of the shows that I fell in love with during the pandemic was Normal People. And Normal People is with Daisy Edgar Jones. She's now in Fresh and she has the Crawdads movie coming out. And she is just electrifying. I don't know how else to put it. But her and I believe the guy's name is Paul Mescal. I think that's his name, Pascal, something like that. Might be butchering that. But it's Paul something. And it's a very intimate love story between these two people who are just not right for one another, but they're trying to make it work. And they each have their problems. And I just remember sitting through this, and it's really depressing. It's really heavy. But I just remember when I finished it, I was like, wow, what an experience. Like it made me feel how I used to feel when I went to the movies. And then I started watching more TV shows, whether it was like comedies like Dollface or Ted Lasso that everyone's connected with, or Hacks, or Only Murders in the Building, or Severance. And I started having this weird pivot where I was like, as much as I love going to the movies, is this movie that I'm going to see going to be as good as Hacks, or as good as Severance, or as good as Ted Lasso? And it's weird to say this as someone who grew up with such a fond memory of movies and who loves movies with all his heart, to sort of pause and kind of say, you know what? I got an invite for Crimes of the Future. Should I go to that, or should I finish watching The Dropout? And it's really, really weird to have that happen when you feel so dead set against something for so long. But to answer your question, I know it was like a roundabout way of getting there. I used to go 5 days a week. You know, when before the pandemic, it was like literally any screening that came up, Scott Menzel is there. I would be going. And then it just changed because not only with the gas prices and like valuing of time a little bit more, like I kind of had this realization, like not every movie needs to be seen on the big screen. So I'll never forget it. It's a movie, and I don't mean to crap on this movie, but like it's something that really bothered me was they wouldn't send me a link to see The Card Counter. It's the Oscar Isaac movie. And I had to do the junket for it. And I drove down to a screening room. And truthfully, I didn't really like the movie. There's elements of it that I kind of enjoyed, but as a whole, it just didn't work for me. And I remember sitting in traffic driving home, and I'm like, why did I have to drive to see this? Like, I would have had the exact same reaction watching this on my couch that I would have had driving all the way here. In fact, it probably would have been a little bit better because I would have been like, that's fine. Where now I'm going to lean a little bit more negative towards it because the experience that I had driving to the theater, two people being in the theater, like they couldn't even fill up the screening room. It was like two people in the theater, and it's like, why? And I know people always argue the fact that like movies need to be experienced on the big screen. And I think it was James Gunn who said this, but movies have a very short life expectancy on a big screen. They're there for a couple of months and then they live, whether it's on DVD, on demand, streaming, whatever it is nowadays. So as much as I enjoy the spectacle of like watching like a Top Gun Maverick on the big screen, and that movie needs to be experienced on the big screen, a movie like Card Counter, where it's just like a drama, like where there's no big set pieces, there's not a lot of action, there's not a lot going on, I can enjoy that at home. So my viewing habits have pivoted from going like 5 days a week to kind of going 2, maybe 3 at most. And I'm more selective of what I'm going to drive to see because, again, there's so much other content out there that I'm like, okay, do I really need to see this movie before everyone else? Like, yes, I need to see Thor: Love and Thunder, but do I need to see the Card Counter before everyone else? Or can that wait until that plays 5 minutes from my house and I'll just go randomly on a Saturday night?
I was going to bring up the fact that I'm in that camp too, where I thought that TV was whatever, and I've pivoted as well.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm, I just feel like I'm being like a traitor in a weird way to the industry. But I think a lot of people have starting to come that turn that corner now. I think a lot of people are just connecting with things and they're like, wow, these shows are better. And I think it's even the studio's fault. Like Marvel is turning their products into TV shows. So when you have a WandaVision, which to me is better than most of these Phase 4 movies. I mean, it's way better than Eternals. It's way better than Doctor Strange. It's better than Thor: Love and Thunder. So you have this TV show that I think has more emotion, more depth, that, of course, people are going to have the option. Do I really want to go see this, or am I going to stay at home and watch this?
What's the longest you can go without watching a movie?
I would say probably a day or two. It's weird. Like, we talk about addiction all the time. Entertainment is sort of addiction. Whether it's watching a trailer or a TV show or being the first to see a movie, there's something that is wired up there where you just feel this need to experience it. And the only time where I don't feel I need to go to a movie every day or every other day is after I get back from a film festival. Because in film festivals, I go hard. And when I say I go hard, I'm going from the first screening of the day, usually at 9 o'clock in the morning, until the last screening of the day at 10 o'clock. If you're at Sundance, it's 12. Or at South by as well. So I'm literally going nonstop from 9 o'clock in the morning, sometimes until 2 o'clock in the morning, watching movies. And when I'm done with a film festival, that's like the time where I can step back for like a week and be like, you know what? I think I'm okay if I don't go. But then what happens in our industry is that you get these nice little things called screening invites. And you're like, oh man, that's right. That screening's coming up. And then even though I said to myself, I'm not going to go for a week. Oh, well, Batman's on Thursday. I got to go see Batman on Thursday. And that's what happens.
Yeah, that would be difficult to be sitting that entire time. But I know when it's being like fed to you, you have no other choice.
Oh, no. And I mean, you can't process everything.
Right.
That's the one thing I will say about film festivals that I think is very interesting. In a weird way, you're doing yourself and the filmmakers and the storytellers a little bit of a disservice. Because if you see a movie that is like phenomenal, like that, like knocks your socks off at like 9 o'clock in the morning, and then you have one at noon, you're going to be riding this high from this movie that you're going to go into the next movie. And it's going to be very, very hard for that movie to top what you just watched. And then the opposite can be said. You can watch the most horrendous movie at 9 o'clock in the morning and be like, God, I hope the day gets better because You know, that movie I just sat through, what a piece of crap. And then you can go in the next movie and you almost have like this, well, this was so much better. So it's almost like you overhype it a little bit. And I've been very guilty of this. I think like when you see stuff, it's sort of at film festivals specifically, you kind of feel the audience reaction. You kind of feel the crowd. And I've been on both sides of that, where people have been really enjoying stuff and I've been like in pain, like Cintra's like, oh my God, when is this over? I don't want to be here anymore. Or the opposite of where like I've really enjoyed something and you can tell like everyone around me is like not feeling it. But I do think that the more stuff that you watch back to back to back, the harder it is to have appropriate expectations and reactions towards. Because what I've found myself is that when I hit in a middle ground, like if I see something really bad and then something really good, then the rest of the stuff I kind of walk out of and go, oh, it's fine. It's very weird to explain and experience. But if you go to a film festival and you've done it for like numerous years like I have, you'll sort of understand what I'm saying is that seeing 4 or 5 things back to back is not always the best way of doing it, but you feel like you almost have to because it's like, oh, I don't know when this movie's going to come out. And then there's always this urge of like, I want to be the first person to see it. I want to be one of the first to see this. I want to be the champion of this movie. Like I think back to Coda, you know, I saw that at Sundance and that was the movie where like I saw it, I fell in love with it. And I was like, this is going to be the awards movie. And I literally rode that train and everyone was like, Scott, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy. And, you know, in those last 2 months going into the Oscars, going from SAG to seeing it kind of sweep everything moving forward from that, it was great to see.